Good evening, everyone. My name's Emily Chancellor, and I work in Austin Water's Public Information Office, and I am going to help get us through the meeting tonight. Our agenda is to start with some welcome and logistics. We'll do some introductions so you can hear from each of the project team members. Then one of our team members will present a traffic control plan overview, which is kind of the main topic for tonight that we want to give you some updates on, and here's your feedback. And then, like Lydia said, we'll have a question and answer time. You'll be able to type in your questions or raise your hand and we can unmute you so you can speak. And we'll be here to get through the questions and answer the questions. If you're asking something that we don't have the information to answer tonight, we'll make note of it and get back to you after the meeting. So with that, we'll go right into our introductions. And Demira Wyatt is our project manager. But next, we're going to hear from Kimberly Morales.
Good evening. I'm your inspector, and I will be out there verifying that all the contractors' work is going to be up to the city's standards. And if any of you have any issues or concerns, you're more than welcome to approach me outside of the construction area, and I'll be there to do whatever I can to get you the answers you need.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Joe Hepkin with Austin Water Distribution System Engineering. Austin Water is the sponsoring department for this very important project. I'll be the lead for Austin Water on the project. So with that, I'll turn over to George with the contractor.
Good evening, everybody. My name is George Lopez. I am the project manager and work for Austin Underground, who is the general contractor for this particular project. I'll be working directly with Demira and Kimberly. So if any concerns come up that need to come to us as a contractor, feel free to reach out to Kimberly and or Demira, and they'll make sure to filter that message to me.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ruben Lopez. I am with Public Works Department in the Engineering Services Division. I am the engineer of record on this set of drawings that are under construction. And Kuhn Nguyen is the design engineer, and he's part of my team. He just couldn't be here today. And with that, I'll pass it back to him.
Thank you, everyone. And like I've said already, I'm Emily Chancellor with Austin Water's Public Information Office, and I will be working with the project team throughout the project to send out updates, schedule meetings when we need to have them, and work to provide communications throughout the construction period. All right, well, Ruben, I'm going to pass it back to you. So you're going to hear from Ruben on our project update tonight.
Okay, so I'm going to start with the project overview. And most of you who attended our previous meeting might find this as repetitive, but I'll go ahead for those that are joining us today for the first time. So the purpose of this project is to create a different pressure zone. So the pressure zones currently are pretty high in this area, which include the Springdale and Chimney Hill subdivisions. So the project is proposing to install 2 pressure reducing valve stations along US Highway 290 that will reduce the water pressures in those 2 residential areas and everything to the north. Within the residential areas along Springdale, the project also includes the replacement of water lines that are either too small or have had a history of breaking constantly, and also eliminating dead-end water lines. Associated with the project, new valves and fire hydrants and other preventives will be installed to meet current code. So this is kind of the overview of what is impacted in terms of the roads, residential, and also the arterial roads in Springdale Road. US Highway 290, we're installing a line that runs along the I guess right of way, not really in the pavement of the US 290. Next slide, please. Oh, wait, hold on. one thing that I wanted to add, so the purpose of this meeting is that we're looking at modifying a traffic control plan that was previously approved. And the area that we're looking at is just north of Ferguson Lane and just south of Beats Hill. So it's the crossing of Walnut Creek that we're really trying to discuss today in terms of traffic control. Okay, next slide, please. So as I mentioned, that we're looking at trying to cross Walnut Creek, and in order to do this, we've got a specialized construction method that we're proposing that kind of minimizes the impacts both to project duration, the amount of time we'll be out constructing the line, and also the impacts to traffic itself during the installation of this line. So just to give you some context on this, this section that we're talking about, we're installing a 12-inch and a 20-inch water main. And these mains will be such that they're one long fused section of pipe. So with the special design, we do have a consultant on our team with the design expertise in this method. So one thing to note is that the plans that were permitted and approved and the traffic control setup that we thought would minimize impacts in traffic and also minimize the construction duration we've come across some complications in that setup that would make it unsafe. So hence that's kind of why we're here to talk about what we're proposing to do. And that original setup was to use an automated system with arms that would allow for 2-directional traffic on Springdale Road while maintaining this drilling setup in place. But it turns out that we can't piggyback more than 2 of these arms that will talk to each other so that we can leave this equipment up overnight. And in so doing, it's complicated, even more so with the number of driveways or private driveways in between these 2 locations of where we're drilling from and coming out of in terms of the end of the actual drilling portion. Next slide, please.
Hey, Ruben, will you
Yes.
speak a little closer to your mic?
Okay.
Your audio is just a little low.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. Thank you.
Is this better?
I think it's a little better. Yes. Thank you.
Okay, sure. So the traffic control plan that we're entertaining, kind of modifying to is making Springdale Road a one-way direction for northbound traffic from Ferguson to Breeds Hill. And the reason we're trying to incorporate this is we want to maintain the least amount of impact in terms of construction duration and also traffic by keeping Springdale open in some form or fashion. That's kind of why we're talking about it today in order to try to get feedback from people that will be affected by what we're proposing to do. One thing that I will like to note is that we have looked at other options, but those options would potentially increase the construction duration from 8 weeks to 20 weeks, which would be 2 months to 5 weeks. And that's having to pull that big drilling rig on and off Springdale Road on a daily basis. It kind of eats up the time in terms of being able to actually drill. The other option that we were looking at is trying to move the location of where we actually can start the drilling. Let's try to get it out of the pavement section of Springdale Road. However, the amount of dry utilities and conflicts with those, especially overhead electric, that makes it kind of difficult for us to try to set up outside the pavement. So we're kind of we're trying to again to minimize impacts to everyone involved. So next slide, please. So this is kind of a schematic of what the traffic patterns would look like if we were to make Springdale Road a one-way direction from Ferguson to Breeds Hill. There's some residential driveways in between those two streets that would have to go north in order to exit to US 290 along with the Breeds Hill development. So it does seem like it's quite an impact, but the way that I was looking at it was that if we can get in and out faster, that may be a better solution. So we're looking at traffic northbound from Ferguson to Breeds Hill, and any traffic coming from either Cameron or Springdale Road would be diverted or detoured around in order to get to US 290. Next slide, please. And this is just kind of an aerial kind of close-up of the area that we're talking about making one way. Again, it's from Ferguson Road to Breeds Hill. Next slide. And then, of course, we would close the lanes headed southbound on Springdale Road with barricades at Cameron Road and Springdale Road. Next slide, please. So that's kind of the intent of what we're trying to do, and we spoke to our partners over at Travis County, and they suggested that we reach out to everyone to kind of explain what we thought would make sense. So with that, that's all I've got.
Thank you, Ruben. Appreciate you going through that. So that is what we have to present tonight, and we are seeking your questions and your feedback about this traffic control plan to do one-way traffic during the drilling for that section. We have a couple of questions that have come in already, but as a reminder, if you're on the phone, you can press *9 and we'll unmute your line so you can speak. If you're online, you can press the raise your hand button, or you can type your questions into the Q&A. So I'm going to start with questions that have already come in. We have a question about what will the water pressure be reduced to when it enters our homes? And Joe, I think you're prepared to answer that.
Yes, again, Joe Hepkin with Austin Water. So really, the answer to that is it really shouldn't change what's going into your house, because currently static pressures in the city's water lines are roughly about 150 PSI plus or minus, just depending on your elevation. But at your meter, or on your side of the meter, there should be a pressure reducing valve, which should regulate the pressure going into your house. Now, I know those fail on occasion, so some of y'all might be having pressures over 100 PSI coming into your house. But really, if you have a functioning PRV, it should be in the 50 to 80 PSI range inside the house. So after we make these adjustments, what that's going to do is going to effectively change your pressure zone for the water lines, the public water lines. So it's your private plumbing shouldn't really change that much if your PRV is functioning properly. Now, if it's not working properly, then yes, it will lower your pressure inside and around the house. I think that answers the question. Is that?
I think so, Joe. But yeah,
Okay.
we can definitely answer follow-up questions if there are any
Okay.
more. And we also had someone ask, what's Breeds Hill? Hopefully the maps we showed made that clear. It's just this street right here. So that was sort of the limit of where this one-way traffic would be under the traffic control plan that's being proposed that we want to talk with you about tonight. All right, I'm going to keep going on our questions that are coming in. So we have someone who lives at 8702 Springdale Road. They say markings on the ground appear to indicate that the bar ditch on the west side of Springdale might be rerouted or piped under my yard down to Ferguson Branch Creek. Is that correct? All right, so Ruben or Kimberly, y'all might need a moment to look this up on Google Maps to see which part of the line that is. Or Ruben, maybe you're ready.
Yeah, all of our improvements are located within public right of way. So none of our improvements are to cross anyone's properties. If that makes sense.
Okay.
It may very well be utilities that are already existing and they're just mapping them out so that we don't hit them during construction.
And George has something to add to this, I think.
Yeah, I was just to piggyback off Kimberly. Most of the markings that are in the general area right now, we are required to do our one calls, and they'll come out and mark any particular utilities that are already existing in the area, whether it's a gas line, another water line, any kind of underground fiber, anything else like that. So that's typically what those markings will initially mean. Other markings you may see as we have surveyors come out to kind of just line up where the pipe is going to be, so that we stay on alignment. But typically what you may be seeing are the utility lines that we've requested before we start digging, so we know if there's anything underneath the ground, so we don't disrupt any gas, internet, or anything else like that.
Thank you all for those responses. And Ernie, who submitted that question, if you want some confirmation, we'll have Kimberly's phone number on our last slide, and you can always call her and ask her to stop by when she's out there, just to confirm what the marking means that you're seeing out there. We'll go to the next question, and it says, I do not have a pressure valve, so will my pressure increase? Joe, I think we're back to you on that question.
So the pressure won't increase after this project is completed. If anything, it's going to decrease, but also it depends on exactly what your address is. But I presume that the Leanne, that you live on one of these residential streets, so it's gonna go down. So right now, if you don't have a PRV, then it's probably going to be very, very high inside and around your house. So afterward, I don't know exactly what our the exact pressure range is going to be. I can look that up afterwards if necessary, but it's going to be quite a bit lower once this project is completed, if you do not have a PRV.
Thank you, Joe. Okay, Joyce is asking, what is the timeline for the project and especially the traffic control plan that we presented tonight? So I wonder if George, you might have some insight on that.
So moving forward, just so everyone's aware, the what was presented tonight still has to be blessed off by Travis County. This is really allowing us to get some feedback. So at least this traffic control portion of the project has kind of been on hold for right now, and to include some of the drilling that may take place until we can kind of make sure everything is safe and set up. Now, I am required as a contractor to myself and Kimberly to kind of inform neighbors and so on of the area and residents of the area before we set traffic control, a couple days before on when we set traffic control. Now, if this plan does get approved for the one-way traffic, One thing that you will see set up it will be in place the moment we put it in place. It's not like some of the other traffic control you may see where we set it up in the morning and take it off at night, or as we close of business. This should be set up for 24 hours a day until we're done with the drilling portion of that, because the drilling rig will actually sit closer to the middle of the road. So for safety precautions, we will keep all that up to ensure no one runs into the drill or anything else like that. So if it does get approved, it will be on a 24-hour basis, but the residents will be notified before we actually set the traffic control.
So Joyce, I would just add that I'll be working with the team in providing updates and communication through our email newsletter. It's hard for us to say exactly when the work could start, as George said, but we'll be providing updates, and you're always welcome to email me also if you haven't heard from us in a bit and you want to know a little more. Ruben, you want to add something to that?
Yeah, I did want to add that, so because we're changing the traffic control we're proposing to, we will have to go back to Travis County, and as a part of that, we will have to go before the commissioner's court. So if it does change, you should receive notice that that would be on the agenda.
Thank you. Okay, next question is, there were yellow flags to mark our gas line. When can we remove them so we can mow that area? Kimberly, maybe, is that something you could address?
To be honest, those needed to stay as long as they can. They are refreshed every 14 days, because the contractor will call that in to have them refreshed. So if they absolutely have to remove it, I imagine that they could do that. I am out there. And so if it's on the current street we're working on, then maybe we can work with you to just put a paint mark or something temporarily and then put the flags right back. So right now we're working on Quiet Street. So if it's on that street, you're welcome to come meet me out there. I'm out there most days for almost all day. If not, you can call me and discuss it with me, and I can bring the contractor and we can go look at it and see if there's something temporary we could do for you to mow it and then put it back.
Thank you, Kimberly. Appreciate that. And just since we've mentioned it a couple of times, I'm going to just put up the project contact information in case anyone wants to get your phone number written down. So I've advanced to that slide. So the next question, I think we've kind of already answered. When do you expect to have a final approved work plan to relay to residents that will set expectations on the 8-week versus the 20-week timeline? And as Ruben and George explained, we'll be working through Travis County to get this proposed traffic control plan approved, and we'll provide updates through our email newsletter. But we don't have a projected date for that to be approved yet. And Lydia, thank you. So Lydia put in the chat just now for us a link to our project website. If you haven't been to that page yet, that'll be easy for you to click on. And when you go to that page, there is another link where you can sign up to be on our newsletter list. So if you aren't already receiving those emails, please do that. Put your email address in, and that way you'll get news directly from us on the project. Our next question is any part of Springdale going to have one-way traffic? So yeah, let's go back to the map, and Ruben, maybe you can cover that again. So under this proposed traffic control plan, maybe this is a good map to look at.
Yes, so the portion that we're looking to make one way is just north of Ferguson Lane to Breeds Hill. And that's just based on the size of the drilling rig. We're just not able to keep two lanes of traffic open in order to complete that section of the work.
Yeah, so for temporarily, this section of Springdale would be one way during this drilling work. So there's a question, have you notified delivery services, including USPS, of the traffic issues during construction? So who would be the best to address what our process is when we have detours and traffic controls out for projects? George, is that part of your responsibility as the contractor to make those notifications?
Yes, so as we close in over the entire duration of the project, it's our responsibility to call DPS, call Austin Fire, call Austin Police, AISD for bus routes, USPS, and things of that sort. Now, outside of this possible one way within along Springdale, you know, all the other any kind of detours or closures will still have through traffic access and things of that sort, and we let each of these entities know that, right? So like we're currently working on Quiet Street, and it's one of those to where residents will still have access to their homes. Police departments will still be able to access where they need to go. So yes, we do notify everyone on different traffic switches. It's my responsibility within 14 days before any of that is really supposed to happen, to go ahead and notify those entities. Luckily, within the city of Austin, a lot of, especially the emergency services and things of that sort, that kind of all run off one system. So once you notify one, it kind of pings everyone. So yes, we are getting down all the way to Austin ISD in regards to that as well.
Thank you, appreciate that. We also have a request if we can email a copy of the slides, and I will add the slides to our project website. So I'll do that by tomorrow. They'll be up there, so you will have access to them. And the next update we send out by email, I can also just have a link to these. So we'll make them available for sure. And then we also have a question, are we pulling the old infrastructure? So are the old pipelines being taken out of the ground?
No, they are not. They're being cut and plugged and abandoned in place.
All right. So they will stay in place but be abandoned. Will we be notifying neighbors before you shut off their water with the time frame? So for any planned water shut off, yes, our process is to notify neighbors with a notice on your front door at least 48 hours in advance. Kimberly and others, just maybe speak up if there are services and planned water shutoffs as part of this project.
So typically, as we get ready to make the switch from the old system to the new system, we will schedule with Austin Water to do their shutouts. Now, typically, just through the pandemic, they are typically Tuesday evenings. And Joe, just correct me if I'm wrong. From my experience, it's been Tuesday evenings is when those shutouts typically will happen. And yes, Kimberly and members of my company will help hand out flyers, before that comes, typically, the weekend before that comes about. But you will get notice, and typically it's Tuesday nights is typically what is being scheduled right now for any kind of valve shutoffs or anything of that sort.
George, you're right. That's still Tuesday night. Sorry, Kimberly.
No, that's fine. Just to add to it, I do my best to knock on everybody's door, keeping a distance. And if you have questions of me, you can ask them. Otherwise, you will only have the paper notice on your door. But I am out there on the site every day. So if you see me, you're more than welcome to stop and talk with me.
Thank you all. I just also want to note that we have an online feedback form. So, if we were doing in-person public meetings, we would have like a sign-in sheet and a comment card. So this is our version of that. Lydia added in the chat the feedback form link. We'd really appreciate you kind of signing in, telling us your name, the street you live on, and then providing any feedback or questions maybe that you don't want to say here in the meeting. We really would like to hear from you all on your feedback, your impression about the one-way traffic plan for Springdale. We're happy to answer any question about the project, but if you have any feedback about that traffic control plan, that is one of the things we're hoping to get out of the meeting tonight. So if anyone wants to speak or provide comments in the Q&A, we'd love to hear that. Okay, I see I have some more questions. When the water lines are put in, how soon will the roads be resurfaced? Who wants to take this one?
I can. So typically, since this is a larger job, we will be having temporary asphalt in place as each portion of the line is done. Typically, what we'll end up doing is so we can do all this kind of in one shot, even though it may be over the course of a week, would be to go ahead and pave everything towards the tail end of the project, and so we can get it kind of all done in one shot, and then any striping that will get done will then follow, just so we can again reduce the amount of traffic and reduce having to close streets multiple times. So we are looking to have temporary asphalt when the new lines are going in. Once fully tested and everything, we will then go ahead and pave the road, mill and pave those roads, because it will not just be where the new line will be. It'll be more of the length of those streets. So yeah.
Thank you, George. All right, so we do have another question about the one-way traffic. When you say one-way traffic, does that mean each way will have to wait for the opposite side to go? In other words, will the traffic flow will alternate direction? So I'm going to go back to our map so that we can discuss that. Ruben, do you want to explain this, or does someone else want to talk about it?
Sure, that's fine. Terry, yes, the traffic will be limited to northbound from Ferguson to Greenville. So we won't have alternating traffic or southbound traffic in that stretch. It's just, it's difficult to try to do that with the number of driveways that we have in between those two roads. We're introducing a lot of traffic, or potential traffic that can come out and go the opposite direction when traffic is going north or south. And that's kind of why I wanted to change it to make it northbound, so that we can kind of keep the duration of construction.
So I was just going to use my pointer to kind of point this out. So this, and Ruben, check me if I'm not showing the right thing. This is the section that would be one way, northbound only. So if you're approaching the area from up here, you will need to take Sprinkle Road around to Ferguson, and then you could approach from this way. Does that look right?
Yes. That's
Thanks,
correct.
Kimberly.
Yes.
Thank you. And the reason for that partly is because this drilling rig is the size of it does not leave enough space in the road for 2 lanes of traffic. And it's not safe to have alternating directions overnight, 24 hours, and especially with the driveways here. So that's the reason that this traffic control plan is being proposed for that portion of the construction.
And Emily, I just posted, sorry, I just put in the chat, Emily, that drilling example video, because I didn't do it before.
Okay, thank you.
And part of that, for just everyone's situational awareness, a lot of it also became the visualization of doing the alternating traffic, especially after construction had ended for the day, being that it was an automatic machine on a timer, and with so many different driveways and pullouts between there, it just became more of a safety concern on knowing which way traffic was coming if you couldn't see the flagging the device and an automated device, whether it was allowing traffic to flow southbound or northbound. So that safety became one of our biggest concerns, when talking to the city, to ensure that everyone was safe. No one was going to hit this big rig that obscures your view as you're driving, of being able to see the device, and so on and so forth.
Thank you, George. Yeah, and Lydia shared in the chat, we had a video, one of our team members had this video that demonstrates the drilling process. And so that might just kind of help you understand the scope of the work that we're working to do in a safe manner, kind of like Ruben said, as quickly as possible, trying to shorten the duration of this work. And so we're just trying to kind of give you the context of that. I don't have any other questions unless I've missed anything. Lydia, let me know.
Someone, or actually, you just moved the question, so you answered it. I don't see anyone with their hand up. No questions.
I think I did want to mention that Joyce made us aware of the schedule for large brush collection for this area. And so I just want to note, we've discussed that in our project team meeting. So our team knows. Kimberly, who you've heard from, knows the date. We aren't certain that we'll have construction going on that week that would be that would interfere, but we'll make sure if work is going on that those collection trucks have access and can get in there and pick up your large brush. We understand that's a valuable service and it's only twice a year, so we'll work and make sure that is able to be collected.
Emily, I think we may have moved over Ernie's question as answered.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, thank you for catching that. Thank you. Okay, we do have a question that we haven't read yet. In spite of appropriate Travis County no through truck signage, big trucks continues to use Springdale. Are there any plans in place to deal with these, assuming they continue to use Springdale? So I'm not sure if this is something that this project team can address. It's maybe a question that we could forward to our Travis County counterparts to provide feedback on.
One of the things I would suggest is anytime they see that they at least report it. The more times they report it and complain about it, I think that they'll find they'll have their fellow police entities there. I've seen some myself making sure that they're not speeding just over the last week. So I'm pretty sure if they reported it, somebody would show up out there tracking and keeping track of it.
Thank you. Okay, now I'm going to check. Do we have any other questions that have come in? We did have just a comment from someone in the chat just pointing out that it may be helpful to point out that PSI, which is the pressure over 80, is actually bad for your plumbing. So that was a comment from an attendee that they asked us to share. So we do hear from an attendee saying that they do report speeding trucks daily, and they have not seen help with that issue. So unfortunately, I don't think this project team is really in a position to address that. So I think working with Travis County would be the right direction to go. So I just want to ask you again to click the link and really quickly fill out the feedback form. That would be helpful to us. If you have any additional questions that come to mind over the next few days, or while we're working to get this new traffic control plan approved, we'd be glad to talk with you individually or answer questions by email. We kind of want to know on the front end if there's concerns that we can address on this proposal. And I think we're getting close to ending. I want to just kind of pause and make sure there's not any final questions coming in. If anyone would like to speak, raise your hand now, and we'd be glad to hear from you directly. We appreciate you spending part of your evening with us and being here this evening. We are aiming to provide good communication. We know this will be disruptive, but our team is really sensitive to working with the residents, getting the work done as quickly as we can. Lydia, is everything, decks look clear? Have we addressed everything?
See, I don't know if you said this out loud, but Nancy commented, we report speeding trucks daily. We don't get any help from the county.
Okay, thank you. All right, folks, I think this is a wrap. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you soon. Good night.